KLM's Boeing 787 Dreamliners are hiding a terrifying secret. A silent killer lurking inside the wings that could ignite at 35,000 feet. You think you're flying on one of the safest planes in the sky? Think again. Fuel leaks next to live wires. Fire alarms that have been deliberately switched off. Emergency doors that refuse to open during power failure. And pilots battling freezing cockpits mid-flight. This isn't a glitch. This is a disaster waiting to happen. And the worst part? Boeing knew about it for years. Today, we expose the hidden dangers inside KLM's Dreamliners and reveal the shocking truth behind one of aviation's biggest cover-ups. So like and subscribe to stay ahead of what the airlines don't want you to know. Imagine this. You're cruising at 35,000 feet. Below you, thousands of liters of highly flammable jet fuel are pumped through complex lines. Above, sensitive electrical systems hum with high-voltage currents. Now, imagine a microcrack, barely visible, dripping fuel directly onto high-voltage wiring. This isn't speculation. This is a chilling reality. A leak was recently discovered at a crucial junction on a KLM 787, the connection between a fuel valve and the pressure distributor. Fuel spread insidiously from a hairline fracture in an aluminum pipe from Boeing's Charleston factory. This pipe was alarmingly adjacent to wiring for the air conditioning and anti-ice systems. Consider the implications. One minuscule spark, a single electrical arc from these live wires, and the entire wing structure could ignite. Catastrophic wing fire. At cruising altitude, far from immediate landing. The terrifying kicker? A confirmed internal report revealed an astonishing 6 out of 7 inspected KLM 787s had this exact same fuel leak. This was not an isolated incident. This was a pervasive, fleet-wide vulnerability. And it was just the beginning. When these dangerous leaks surfaced, initial questions pointed to airline maintenance. But the truth was far more damning for Boeing. Every affected plane followed Boeing's precise, mandated maintenance protocol. No wear, no external damage. The flaw was embedded. It was a fundamental manufacturing defect, a ticking time bomb from the factory floor. Further scrutiny revealed systemic deficiencies. The composite aluminum pipe batch responsible for those perilous fuel leaks notoriously lacked a full ultrasound inspection. A fundamental quality control step, simply skipped. This wasn't an isolated oversight. Boeing's Charleston plant has a documented history, known for rushing production schedules, routinely skipping torque specifications, neglecting essential gap shimming in crucial fuselage sections. It became a culture where the drive for production numbers systematically overrode any commitment to safety. The alarming evidence isn't confined to KLM. Similar manufacturing flaws have plagued 787 fleets belonging to ANA, Norwegian, and Air New Zealand. This isn't about one airline's bad luck. This is about a global pattern of compromised integrity. The issues run deep, originating not from the airlines flying these planes, but from the very assembly lines where they were born. Imagine the calm of flight. Then, a shudder, a warning light, and a sound no pilot ever wants to hear. In November 2023, KLM Flight 871 was forced into a harrowing, immediate return. Why? Escalating cockpit vibration alarms. Then, a horrifying 25-second metallic screech, raw and violent, from one of the massive engines. The cause? A turbine shaft misalignment. Just 0.03 seconds of deviation. At 10,000 RPM, such a tiny imbalance transforms into an immense, destructive force, risking an engine casing breach, an uncontained engine failure. This engine was barely 2 years old, recently certified. Yet, it very nearly tore itself apart mid-flight. This terrifying incident echoes a grim history. The Rolls-Royce Trent 1000 engine has been a source of recurring nightmares for the Dreamliner program. Earlier problems with this very engine model grounded over 50 other 787s worldwide between 2018 and 2020. Boeing had offered assurances, promising those problems were fixed. But was this episode on KL-871 a resurgence of old, unaddressed flaws? The pattern of known defects, supposedly resolved, relentlessly resurfacing, is undeniable. What's more terrifying than a potential fire erupting deep within the belly of an aircraft? The horrifying realization that such a fire could ignite, spread, and rage undetected for critical, life-altering minutes. In 2024, smoke sensors in the cargo holds of 3 separate KLM 787 flights triggered false alarms. A nuisance for airline operations, but a critical safety system. Boeing itself had been aware of these issues since 2020, issuing a technical bulletin acknowledging high false alarm rates. But despite the warning, no fleet-wide recall was issued. No mandatory update. And KLM engineers, under pressure, made a drastic, dangerous decision. They completely disabled the cargo fire detection system on those aircraft. Think about that. The primary line of defense against a hidden fire, completely offline. No flight log entries were made. Passengers remained completely in the dark. In a real fire scenario, critical minutes, potentially 8 minutes or more, would pass before manual detection. 8 minutes for a contained fire to become an inferno. 8 minutes where lives hang in the balance, unbeknownst to anyone on board. In the chaotic moments of an emergency, every exit must function flawlessly. Yet, a routine safety drill in February 2024 exposed another horrifying flaw. Emergency exit door number 3 on a KLM 787 failed to open during a simulated power outage. This door uses a complex dual electric and manual system. It failed to synchronize. It jammed halfway open. A mechanical stop, inexplicably engaged, even with zero simulated cabin pressure. The exit, meant to be a lifeline, became a barrier. This isn't just bad luck. The supplier for this critical component was previously flagged for defects in Boeing's 777 exit door systems years prior. And here's the most alarming revelation. Boeing had internal memos detailing the potential for this exact type of failure. They knew. Yet, despite this direct knowledge, no public technical update was ever issued. No fix. No warning to airlines. Another critical safety component, compromised, deliberately left unaddressed. This is a terrifying gamble with human lives. Emergency lighting systems are designed to provide clear, unequivocal guidance in the darkest, most terrifying moments. But what if those very lights, instead of guiding, actively disorient? During a simulated evacuation test on a 787, the emergency lights triggered unevenly, erratically. The rear cabin lights were delayed by a shocking 7 seconds. Mid-cabin lights flickered. The immediate, chilling result? 15 participants, in a controlled test, ran the wrong way. Confusion. Disorientation. In a real emergency, these seconds, this confusion, could be deadly. The issue was traced to a signal lag between lighting controllers. And Boeing? Their engineers were unequivocally aware of this problem since 2022. But again, no software patch. No technical bulletin. This critical safety failure was simply minimized, logged as a non-critical visual delay. Non-critical. For an emergency where every visual cue is a matter of life and death. The cockpit is the command center, where precision is paramount. But what if the environment itself becomes hostile? On 2 separate KLM 787 flights, cockpit temperatures plummeted below a frigid 10 degrees Celsius during cruise. Freezing. Cold air leaked cyclically through a pressurization duct behind the cockpit panel. Pilots reported immediate and dangerous effects. Screens fogged over, crucial throttles became bitterly cold, and their fingers went numb. Essential functions, compromised by a simple, unaddressed leak. Alarmingly, no warnings were triggered, no automatic crew alerts. One pilot's chilling log entry starkly illustrates the severity. Only stayed alert because hands too cold to relax. The underlying culprit? Rubber seals at the junction of these ducts, known for developing microtears. Another known defect. Another ignored safety bulletin from Boeing. Pilots, risking frostbite and impaired dexterity, were forced to stay alert by sheer, painful necessity. This isn't just uncomfortable. It's a direct threat to flight safety. In May 2025, a discovery at KLM's maintenance hangars sent shockwaves through the entire aviation world. Engineers uncovered a catastrophic error. For weeks, 7 of KLM's 787 Dreamliners had been maintained using the entirely wrong manual. They were following protocols designed for the Boeing 777, a completely different aircraft model. Consider the sheer implications: valve torque specifications, fuel line assembly procedures, critical calibration steps, all mismatched. This immense procedural error directly contributed to the very slow fuel leakage that forced initial investigations. The mistake persisted for weeks, noticed only when the distinct smell of jet fuel became undeniable. And the most infuriating part? Boeing's own complex, supposedly fail-safe systems, utterly failed. No alarm, no red flag, no internal mechanism detected this critical procedural mismatch. How does a manufacturer allow its flagship aircraft to be maintained with instructions for a completely different design, without any system flagging such a fundamental, potentially catastrophic discrepancy? It speaks to a deep, systemic breakdown in oversight. The tension had been building. Then, on May 14, 2025, it shattered the calm. Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport was plunged into chaos as KLM silently, abruptly, grounded its entire 787 Dreamliner fleet. Flights to major international destinations were cancelled without explanation. Thousands of passengers stranded, their plans shattered, left with no updates as flight boards went blank. The scene on the ground was one of confusion and deliberate obfuscation. Reporters were blocked from hangars. KLM staff were removed from counters, instructed to offer no details beyond the official, vague statement: KLM is conducting an internal technical review. There are no safety concerns. But that assurance felt hollow, almost insulting. The truth was hidden behind locked doors. The financial impact alone was staggering. The message was chillingly clear: silence over transparency. This wasn't a sudden, isolated decision. It was the forced culmination of everything we've uncovered. The fuel leaks, the manufacturing defects, the engine scares, the disabled sensors, the jammed doors, the lighting chaos, the freezing cockpits, and now, the damning discovery of the wrong maintenance manuals. The Dreamliner wasn't a dream. It was becoming a nightmare in the sky. The relentless trail of these alarming defects repeatedly leads to one source: Boeing's Charleston factory. This facility, tasked with building the very future of aviation, appears to be a consistent, endemic source of fundamental manufacturing flaws and compromised quality control. Internal reports and whistleblowers from 2019 to 2024 paint a horrifying picture: unsecured wire clusters, loose bolts, misaligned seat bases, basic assembly failures. An internal audit chillingly revealed that crucial shimming gaps in the fuselage were left untreated 98.7% of the time. Almost every single aircraft from this factory left with this fundamental flaw. And perhaps most terrifyingly, the advanced composite fuselage itself contained undetectable microcracks at the crucial wing root junction. Yet, despite this profound internal knowledge, Boeing systematically cleared these fundamentally flawed frames. They classified these glaring issues as merely within tolerance and shipped them anyway. This isn't human error. This is a shocking, systemic failure, a pattern of prioritizing output and delivery deadlines, relentlessly sacrificing meticulous quality control and passenger safety. The very birthplace of the Dreamliner became a source of its deepest flaws. The KLM grounding wasn't an anomaly. It was a chilling symptom of a far larger, global problem plaguing Boeing's 787 Dreamliner fleet. The defects, the operational vulnerabilities, the maintenance oversights are not confined to a single airline. They are a terrifying, undeniable cross-airline pattern. Evidence from other major international carriers paints a consistent, disturbing picture. Qatar Airways repeatedly reported and requested replacements for pervasive cargo sensor faults as far back as 2020. LATAM Airlines flagged air leak issues identical to KLM's in 2023. ANA was forced to conduct its own 787 groundings due to alarming composite skin delamination near the rear bulkhead. And in 2025, a contaminated fuel system on an Air India 787 was directly traced back to a fundamental factory defect. Alarmingly, the world's leading aviation regulators, the US Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, and the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, were not entirely unaware. They had issued technical memos, internal advisories, and warnings about these escalating issues. They were aware of the mounting evidence of systemic failures. Yet, despite this comprehensive knowledge, despite the clear and present danger, no widespread public grounding was ever mandated. No global recall of the 787 fleet was issued. The planes, with their hidden vulnerabilities, continued to fly. This isn't merely a series of unfortunate, disconnected accidents. This is a meticulously documented, deliberate, and deeply disturbing strategy of concealment. The chilling testimony of a whistleblower from within Boeing exposed the company's internal tactics, bundling critical defects into classifications of non-critical issues to bypass FAA flags. A single, critical fault demands a swift, public recall. But a collection of minor defects, even if cumulatively catastrophic, can be reclassified, downplayed, and often escapes mandatory regulatory action. It's a loophole exploited to avoid public scrutiny and costly repairs. This strategy meant that known sensor faults were downgraded to mere advisories. Known engine cracking risks led to continued deliveries of new aircraft. Boeing's internal review processes, supposedly designed to ensure the utmost safety, actively reclassified truly critical flaws as merely acceptable variants. The relentless drive for profit, the immense pressure for continuous production and delivery, systematically overshadowed any genuine commitment to safety. The lives of passengers, the safety of flight crews, these became secondary to the bottom line. The question echoes with terrifying clarity, haunting every flight. Who signed off? Who, armed with all this undeniable evidence, the internal memos, the damning audit reports, the desperate warnings from whistleblowers, made the cold, calculated decision to sign the documents, to authorize these fundamentally flawed aircraft to fly in such a compromised condition? The answer, deliberately shrouded in layers of corporate silence and legal obfuscation, speaks volumes about the true value placed on human life versus the relentless pursuit of profit. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner, once a symbol of airborne aspiration, is increasingly becoming a flying testament to corporate deception and systemic disregard for safety. And we, the unsuspecting passengers, are on board, hoping the dream doesn't become a tragedy.